Alright, here we go again. What happened to TubNet? And how did we get here? Well, why don't we find out together? But first and foremost, I'm Appity. Now please, sit back, relax, and without further ado, let's take a deep dive into what happened to TubNet, how it's going and where it's headed. All the while, we wrap up this year with yet another Appity upload. Alright, now, just before we plummet into this rabbit hole, we first need to establish what TubNet is and where it came from. Now, at the time of writing this, I know nothing about TubNet, so please, just give me one moment. Alright, okay, so, why don't we run through a basic history of TubNet, shall we? Initially released back in August, and with the earliest hint of its existence being back in May, TubNet was stacked up to be a rising competitor in the Minecraft multiplayer scene, with the potential to rival Hypixel if it had enough of a following. And oh boy, a following it had. TubNet was owned by the one and only Tubbo, a huge streamer in the Minecraft community. I don't even think he needs much of an introduction. But the point is, TubNet was backed by both Tubbo and his streamer friends alike, so how did things end up like how they are today? Well, in order to explain the present, we're gonna have to take a dive into the past. TubNet had its official announcement trailer in mid-July, welcoming players to the vibrant and busy New Block City. All of this through the lens of an animation the likes of which could rival Mojang's own update trailers, which is honestly really impressive. But anyway, following trailers would be made on the games TubNet would feature. The three games being Crystal Rush, Lightstrike, and Spacebound. But for now, why don't we get back to the launch? These trailers, alongside months worth of hype since May, led to incredible excitement from those interested. Too much excitement, in fact. Now, this all resulted in what might be defined as suffering from success. When TubNet opened the floodgate to the public on August 26th, things took a sharp turn for the worst. TubNet was overrun with players, and one of their service providers, Cloudflare, couldn't take the pressure. Oh, and by the way, had I mentioned that TubNet was planned on having crossplay between both Java and Bedrock? Well, nonetheless, it's important to remember that these servers had only been open to the Java audience, making the servers struggling to keep up an even more pressing concern. This all resulted in a delay, summed up by the man himself in an upload on TubNet's official YouTube channel, accurately labeled some disappointing news.
Due to no fault of our own, one of our service providers, Cloudflare, was unable to handle the immense load which was all of you guys joining the server. How we plan on making this up to you guys is by putting in even more effort to polish and make our games even better.
Did you catch that? Let me rehash it for you.
How we plan on making this up to you guys is by putting in even more effort.
Right here. TubNet, through Tubbo himself, promises more than what had initially been offered, all in an effort to make up for the delay. Tubbo may have accidentally made the mistake of overpromising, so keep that in mind as we move forward. TubNet would make its grand return 3 weeks ago, with an update video posted to its YouTube creatively called TubNet is Back, featuring Tubbo alongside his creative director, Carrot Jumps. In said video, they both set about answering popular community questions individually, meanwhile the other either stares into your soul or at their partner. But the point is, TubNet was indeed back, and the new release date was revealed to be November 25th. The stage was set, and New Block City was ready for its grand reopening. And so it did. TubNet launched to a fairly strong reception on November 25th, but there was just one problem. Content! Or more accurately, it hardly had any. TubNet launched with a grand total of 2 game modes, Spacebound not being one of them. While it had been known for a while that Spacebound, a game mode with such a big vision, would take longer than that of Crystal Rush and Lightstrike, this does little to negate the fact that the other two can carry an audience for an extended period of time, not alone. Well, why exactly is that? Well, to find out why these game modes can't compete alone, we first need to take a plunge and explain them to those of you unacquainted with TubNet. As always, if you're disinterested in my explanations of the minigames themselves and just want to hear my thoughts and opinions, I've chaptered the video down below, so feel free to skip ahead. And without further ado, Lightstrike. Lightstrike is, as some might already know, CSGO, Minecraft Edition. Okay. Simply put, there are 2 separate teams with different roles. There's that of the Placers and the Breakers. 2 creative names to be sure, but nonetheless, the 2 roles are pretty simple. The Placer team has the simple goal of planting the star, in one of the 2 areas, Area A or Area B. All the while, the opposing team, the Breakers' job is to stop them. And in the event that the star is planted, they must break it. Upon a few rounds having passed, the teams swap sides and take the opposing role to what they had before. And before playing each individual round, the players have the option to purchase tools and equipment with coins in the pregame, which can be earned by either eliminating or surviving enemy players in the prior rounds. Now, Lightstrike might not exactly be the best example of the creativity that TubNet proclaimed to take pride in, but it is an okay game mode. Alright, let's move on to Crystal Rush. I suppose it could be said that Crystal Rush picks up a little bit in terms of creativity, but ultimately it seems to resemble another Hypixel game mode. Must be my imagination. But okay, the aim of the game is to be the last man standing, and in order to do so you have to battle your opponents over an arena in the sky. In order to eliminate enemy players, you must break their Nexus Crystal, and following that they can no longer respawn. You can use a multitude of tools to your advantage, like boost orbs, grapple orbs, launch totems, etc. Each one performing some kind of action, and each having a following cooldown to reduce spam. As a method of purchasing said tools, there are 3 types of currency. We've got weak shards, strong shards, and lastly, Nexus shards. Weak and strong shards can be mined through their nodes. However, Nexus shards can only be earned through eliminating another player's Nexus. Each one can be used to buy varying quality of equipment, which directly correlates to the rarity of the shard being used in the purchase. As you could probably tell, Crystal Rush is a little more complicated, as it involves resource management, knowing when to take fights, playing both defense and offense, and most importantly having to remind yourself that you aren't playing Bed Wars and that walking backwards upon respawning isn't how you get resources. Okay, you know what? Never mind. From as far as I can tell, these game modes will both eventually have a ranked version for the more invested players. However, it's still not clear as to whether Crystal Rush will receive a Teams of 3/4 variant. Beyond these 2 PvP game modes, there lies the golden goose of TubNet. A game mode so expansive and boundary-breaking that no other server has attempted to pull it off thus far. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you, Spacebound! And it isn't actually out yet. Okay, now while it might not have released yet, it would appear to be TubNet's prime example of creativity, as it promotes players taking the leap into space travel, developing, crafting, and customizing their own rocket to take to the stars. Now that sounds like a lot of fun. Provided it can be pulled off, that is. The exact magnitude or list of features the game mode will have isn't quite clear yet, but the content in the trailer that they've shown seems quite exciting and is enough to generate hype. Now that we're done with our descriptions of the game modes, I think it's time to bite the bullet. What are my opinions on TubNet as of December 2022? TubNet has yet to solidify itself in its standing amongst its competitors, and this is largely in part to its lack of game modes. But also just the lack of content that can't be found anywhere else. However, that isn't to say that there aren't other things holding the server back either. Just before I go into this, I want to outline that maybe I've been a bit silly and missed a few things here and there, but I try to tackle these servers from a first-hand user's perspective as best as I can. In the event that there's something I complain about not having on the server, but it does exist, then there's a good chance I missed the prompt for it, and if that's the case, then there's a strong likelihood other first-time players would do the same. But in any case, let's start small, shall we? Okay, first on the chopping block we have customization. It has been made clear from TubNet's announcement trailer in August that player customization and expression would be included in the TubNet package right from the get-go. However, upon loading up the server for the first time, I was struck with the whiplash by how every single item I see on screen is paid for through microtransactions of some kind. Whether it be through qubits or ranks bought on their store page, it is made abundantly clear to me that I am a peasant and not worthy of wearing even a construction hat. And to make things worse, the customization system is accompanied by this really cool and unique wardrobe, letting the user select and display items on their player character before wearing them out in New Block City. Now, yeah, I understand people need to be paid and money has to be made on the server as a means of keeping things running, but MCC Island is a key example of an incredible minigame server that has pages worth of free-to-earn customization options to help players express themselves. But alright, what about the user interface? TubNet expresses its UI through the introduction of a phone to each individual player, as a means of navigating and exploring the options the server presents. The only problem being that these options come with some flaws. Firstly, there is a maximum friends list size, but don't worry, because you can purchase more friends with a rank. And for the party system, there's a maximum of 4 for now, which is more than fine, but my question comes into play when TubNet puts those extra bonus party slots to use. Will they also be paid for through ranks? And speaking of the party system, I encountered a number of bugs in relation to it during my experience on the server, whether it be the UI not recognizing when players had joined the party upon being invited, or telling the players who I invited that they were now the party leader. Both the UI and customization actively challenge the user's will to participate in minigames and play on TubNet at all, seeing as upon investing time into the server, you won't be rewarded with cosmetics, will eventually have to pick and choose friends to keep or remove, and all the while put up with bugs that waste valuable time you could be spending enjoying the minigames. There aren't even any kind of achievements or challenges from what I've seen at the very least. But alright, let's observe the elephant in the room. What about TubNet's minigames? What are my opinions on Lightstrike? Lightstrike serves as a key example of the creativity wall Minecraft servers have struggled to overcome in order to stand out amongst the vast competition they face. Besides this, and in terms of the actual aim of the game, the emphasis on planting the star isn't as heavy as it ought to be. This could be fixed with some kind of mini-map perhaps, and pointing the player carrying the star to one of the two destinations they should be prioritizing. To go alongside, the player carrying the star could be highlighted to their teammates, thus encouraging them to follow and protect the player. Other than all of this, Lightstrike has a pretty nifty bug allowing players to just blatantly ignore the border at the beginning of the game. Okay, let's go take a closer look at its partner launch game mode. What are my opinions on Crystal Rush? Crystal Rush, while a little more creative than Lightstrike, is a somewhat interesting twist in the Bed Wars style minigame, as it's got a unique form of resource collection and it's presented in the form of 1.9 combat. However, these are only parallels to Hypixel and Bed Wars itself that don't necessarily make it a more enjoyable or better experience. Other than some unique item changes and abilities, it really struggles to differentiate itself from Bed Wars with regards to the core gameplay elements, highlighted in my earlier chapter. Now, please keep in mind that these suggested solutions of mine might just not be possible, especially given that the server has to ensure crossplay and complete parity between Java and Bedrock. Alright, but that's enough about my complaints. What do I think of TubNet, and do I think it has a future? I think that TubNet has been an experience. Now, was it the most unique and entertaining experience? Not particularly. But that doesn't mean that there isn't an audience for what TubNet is offering. Even despite my critiques of the server, I really want to enjoy my time here, and I have no doubt that it wasn't Tubbo's intention for things to turn out this way. TubNet has had a strong opportunity to grasp the Minecraft community's attention, and while it might not have struck it first try, there's still hope. Servers like Hypixel need some healthy competition, and with Spacebound on the horizon, I'll be taking the first opportunity I have to stream it on my Twitch, link in the description by the way, and explore the stars. Tubbo has always seemed like a really genuine and great guy, so I want to wish him the best of luck with TubNet. Now this is Appity, signing off.